Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone. I'm going to wait maybe a minute or two. I see people still joining the session. This session is being recorded, so if anybody has to leave or would like the recording, they can request it from us as well. But I'll give them maybe another 30 seconds here before we kick off the session today. Okay, with that, I guess I'll get some housekeeping out of the way. Again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I do notice that there are some people from a lot of people from the United States, but also some people from outside the states. So we've got different time zones here, and I also noticed different roles within businesses. We've got some people in manufacturing managers as well as accounting, and even some planners as well, which is nice to see. As far as the session goes, we will have a question and answer time at the end of this. So if you want to, please submit your questions through the question box or the chat box, and we'll moderate them and answer them at the end of this session. And then also during the session, we are going to present some simple poll questions, literally taking maybe 30 seconds or 45 seconds to read and answer. It's a multiple choice kind of answer kind of thing. So with that, let's kick this off. Our webinar today for paperless is how ERP is positively affected by MES. So if you're thinking about your ERP, pretty much all kinds of businesses from small to large make use of an ERP software system in order to improve their processes and really kind of push their profits and their revenue ceiling, right? The ERP system brings together a number of different processes and allows them to obviously communicate and collaborate with each other in one fluid system. You think about your planning, your forecasting, your accounting, purchasing, sales, HR. There's a lot of different applications out there, and they're all integrated together, making this ERP system a real vital part for helping and managing your business. This close integration of the different modules that you have kind of handles all different aspects of your business and allows the organization to really collect and store and manage and communicate and interpret data to really make good business decisions for a lot of different areas, right? So you think about production, you think about purchasing, you think about costing, and all those different areas are gathering this information or have access to this information, and they're making their own business decisions based on that. So you think about the importance of an ERP system. Obviously, it is very vital, like I said already. But kind of think about it like trying to have a scavenger hunt without having any clues, right? That's the same thing as trying to run your business without an ERP system. You know, you're going to go on this scavenger hunt, and you may make some gradual progress towards the goals and even see a little bit of growth, but you're really kind of acting off of mainly intuition, and you don't have factual information to say that you're going down the right path. And that's really what that ERP system brings you, right? It brings you factual information that says, here's what we have, here's what we've done, here's what we are about to do, here's what we've promised, those kind of things, in order to obviously, you know, get all the necessary pieces of your business working together. If the ERP system is this vital part, right, it's kind of like the heart of your business, right? Well, then you think about the blood is really the data that's necessary to keep that heart pumping and working. Think about sales data and planning data and supply chain information. MES is that essential tool for communicating the data to that ERP system. It's really kind of giving you that competitive advantage over your competition and integrating every part of your business down to the shop floor. With that, I kind of want to release one poll question here. And the first poll question should pop up, which is how accurate is your or are your standard rates? I'll give everybody maybe 30 seconds here to actually see that poll question and then answer it. But because you think about your standard rates, your rates are really kind of helping drive a lot of different things within your organization, and it's also driving a lot of things within your ERP system. So the more accurate rates you have, or the more confidence that you have that your rates are accurate, will obviously impact almost every part of your business out there. Looking at some of the responses here, we're getting quite a few, about 40 to 50%, right in that 50 to 70% accuracy rate. We've got some above and then even a couple that are below, which is interesting. So thinking about your MES system and being able to help capture actual rates, and then being able to use that information to adjust your rates will have a huge impact on your bottom line. So now let's talk about this ERP system and MES system and what are the differences, and then most importantly is actually how do they fit together, right? How do they affect each other? How do they augment each other? How do they actually work together to help your business? So what are the differences, right? You kind of have apples and oranges here a little bit, right? And the first thing, and probably the main thing here, is that ERP is not designed to reach the shop floor. Even with all the features that are related to production execution that exist in ERP, there's really no machine or person that actually produces a part or a cycle on a machine that will probably ever communicate that to the ERP system when that cycle is done or when that piece is done. Shop floor production systems and ERP systems really operate on different interpretations of what is real time. ERP is kind of looking at like the strategic management of the business, while the MES system is really associated with the the execution of the process. These two systems, have to communicate together and have to act almost seamlessly as a whole to allow your business, our manufacturers out there, to meet that dynamic demand coming from customers or suppliers, or even that internal demand that is happening. So it's really critical out there to say that your ERP system is really not designed to actually be run out there on the shop floor. It's a necessary piece of your business, but again, it's not designed out there to be running on the shop floor. And then you kind of think about the changes, right? When you have things change in ERP versus things change out there on the shop floor, and really things in ERP change on the floor change 10 times faster than they do in ERP. You think about it kind of in that strategic or market change kind of effect on ERP, meaning I have a new demand to make something changed for an order out there or whatever it may be. Well, that level, there's really one change, right? And that really generates a volume of changes that are kind of like 10 times more than that ERP change out to the production floor. Thinking about the parts that have to be grabbed for what's being manufactured, the machines that are affected by the demand that was just put out there, the due dates and the start dates and all the things that actually have to be communicated and changed based on that ERP change happening. You think about releasing one manufacturing order with maybe a number of sub-manufacturing orders underneath it that all have to kind of be coordinated and put into a timeline so that they can all meet at the end there to meet the delivery date that was promised by somebody. So you think about that change in ERP really is exponential out there on the shop floor. Then you think about the needs of the shop floor versus the needs of ERP, right? So those who work with the ERP system really have different needs than those who actually work in production. Different operators with different needs require different information, right? But also that information needs to be presented in a different way. So you think about your UI and your UX, your user interface and your user experience. ERP, it's great for somebody to navigate with a mouse and a keyboard to click, 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 and they're often doing things. I've been around it for a long time, even going back to green screen, and you would watch people actually navigate, even myself, through green screen. I was usually typing 3 screens ahead sometimes of what I was actually being displayed on my screen, just because you get used to it, right? That's a lot of typing and a lot of screens to be presented. Again, out there on the shop floor, in production, you really have to kind of whittle that down and actually only show what is needed to, at that time. And it has to really kind of be packaged up to allow for a fast interface, and if not really immediate. And you think about the decisions that are made out there on the shop floor, our kind of decisions are made for now, where your decisions in ERP are kind of more strategic, right? I'm planning for the future for a job that needs to be done, or I'm actually creating routing steps for an item I just created that will be built into the future. Well, that production floor, that is actually happening right now. It's immediate. So the information that's actually needed, as well as the information that is actually processed, will actually drive decisions today. There's some times where you're going to look out there on the shop floor and you're going to look at some historical information to actually look at a trend to see how maybe a job is running, whether it's running faster or slower, or maybe if I'm producing more scrap parts than what I want to produce, then obviously I can make some changes. But more importantly, you're looking at that information in an immediate kind of sense versus a strategic sense, which is more historical and more planning kind of events. The ERP system, kind of boiling this down a little bit, is kind of saying the ERP system knows why, and the MES system really knows how, right? Simply put, why is more strategic and the how is more operational and execution, if that makes sense to everybody. My second poll question is going to be distributed now. Just launch it, which is, how accurate is your raw material and sub-assembled items out there? How confident are you in your numbers for inventory accuracy, for that matter? Again, I'll give you about maybe 10 to 20 seconds here to answer this question. And again, you think about the effect of your inventory, being able to have accurate inventory levels. Helps your planning, of course, but it also helps the people on the floor. Knowing where something is exactly allows me to actually eliminate wasted steps trying to find parts, right? It's also eliminating steps to say I'm going to start running a job and I don't have the material available for that job. So there's a lot of different decisions that can be made based on the accuracy of your inventory. And again, MES allows you to bring that accuracy not only inside of MES, but also broadcast that to ERP. So your purchasing and your buyers can now actually make informed decisions on what they really need to have and what they don't need to have. Okay, moving on here. So now let's actually take a look at how these things fit together. And like I said, they really kind of rely on each other. And if you're looking at my little diagram here, where you've got machines at the very low end of this pyramid, and then up from that, you've got your PLCs and SCADA devices, or your sensors or your cameras, or things that are actually kind of machine level interface, or industrial Internet of Things. That's another new term nowadays. And that information that gets broadcasted up into your manufacturing execution system, and then ultimately into ERP. If I had to kind of draw this into a kind of a data layer, obviously ERP has the majority of the data, right? Because it has everything. MES has the next, is the next biggest category, and then PLC and obviously machines, it goes down from there. So you'd kind of just turn the pyramid upside down from a data sense. But you think about these things here. Obviously machines, if you want to communicate to machines through sensors and PLCs and SCADA devices, that's not a problem. That's going to grab the information, process it through MES, and ultimately process it through your ERP system. You think about the data flow though, right? It can't just go one way like I was kind of just describing from that pyramid from the bottom up. It also has to come from the top down, which means that things that are being done inside of ERP need to be communicated down to the shop floor and vice versa. You know, your ERP and MES system really have kind of mutual data dependencies. ERP will obviously, you know, get information and for receiving and POs and sales orders and bill of materials and routing steps and all that good stuff. And that's really what kind of feeds your MES system, right? And then MES really feeds ERP with the accurate and timely information, you know, such as, you know, my inventory levels, my production levels, my work in process status, the quantities that have been reported good or bad, serial number usage, items that have been scrapped from a material standpoint, not from a work in process standpoint, but or both actually. And then also genealogy, right? You know, what components went into what end items, and then this is all for tracking purposes, not only for, you know, historical purposes, but for real-time purposes to say if am I on schedule, am I actually going below zero on a location that is expecting quantity. The return of the information to ERP and the investments that you put in an MES system really increase your competitive advantage for delivering on-time products that are really kind of compliant with your customers' demand, right? Not only with how many they ordered, but also the quality and meeting their certifications and standards. And again, these two things need to work together to give you that competitive advantage. Kind of one example of this is thinking about supply chain, right? The supply chain needs to be integrated beyond just the strategic or the ERP commercial level, right? Kind of like think about a modern economic kind of scenario. The competition no longer takes place really between company A and company B, right? That supply chain, you know, company A, company B, it really kind of takes place between the supply chain. How fast can I get parts from my supplier to allow me to build the parts for my customers, right? That's really where your competitive advantage is taking us these days, right? And that economic impact that it has on all of our businesses, to say that if we can, you know, promise a quick turnaround to our customers, they're going to be more likely to buy from us. We can obviously, you know, not only, you know, improve our business from the standpoint of being able to handle more customers, but also we can potentially even increase our costs because we're able to turn it around so quickly. So there's really, you know, a constant alignment here between the ERP system and the MES system, from the shop floor all the way up to the top level there. Kind of looking at MES or paperless MES, right, and kind of saying, all right, you know, how does this affect? So I just kind of grabbed one screen that we have, which is really one manufacturing event, and it can have 8+ different business updates from this one event, just kind of showing the simplicity, like I said, that UI and UX experience out there that says I can create one event and have a lot of different things get triggered off of it. That's obviously going to improve the data accuracy in ERP and obviously your business decisions based on that. So we can actually have information for labor, the quantity made, right, at this work in process step, the status of this work in process step, the material consumed, which means the components that were consumed at this point in the manufacturing process, the quality for the part that I'm making or that I'm manufacturing, and quality can be anything. It could be for the components, could be for the work in process, it could be for the machine setup, all of that stuff. And then we have the finished goods that are also being reported complete, generating some labels. And then probably the most important thing here is notifications. You can have a whole slew of different notifications get sent off, and they can be presented in a dashboard format to say that a job is running behind schedule or have a quality alert, whatever it may be. Or you can send them in an email or a text message kind of fashion that says, you know what, I've got something in my inbox, on my phone, or wherever it may be that says, hey, I just had a quality issue over at this machine, or I have a downtime over here for this machine. So those 8 different business events can be driven from this one manufacturing event out there on the shop floor. And then obviously thinking about these business events, how that actually rolls up into your ERP system, right? So if I'm looking at, just some examples of things that could be hit, right, is my on-time or just-in-time delivery, right? I have to be able to produce things on time and deliver them based on an expected due date from a manufacturing standpoint to be able to deliver them to my customer's door on time, right? So that information coming from the floor dramatically improves my ability to have on-time delivery or just-in-time delivery. Another example is inventory, improving the quality of the data, obviously, for inventory, not only, from a receiving standpoint for the goods that I receive in, doing some testing of it, but also from the standpoint of my work in process and ultimately my end items that are produced out there on the shop floor. So if I can improve my inventory accuracy as well as the quality of the parts that I'm producing, obviously that's a benefit for the bottom line there. I'm going to release another poll question now. And my third poll question for you is, what is your ability to deliver your end items to your customers on time? Do you have a pretty high on-time delivery? Do you have a pretty low on-time delivery? And obviously this can fluctuate. You could obviously put buffers in your timelines, which says, in fact, I asked a customer not too long ago if they had an issue with delivering on time, and they said, nope, we're always 100% on time. Well, and then diving into more details, they actually increase their expected due date or delivery date so far into the future that they knew they were always going to hit it. Well, that's great, because now you're on time, metric looks great, but in reality, think about the other things that could cost you, right? You could really be turning away customers based on your delivery time, saying, well, it's going to take me 2 weeks or 2 months to deliver something to you. I may try to go to another customer that can deliver in maybe 1 week or 1 month. Obviously, you're going to win or lose business based on your ability to not only deliver on time, but also shorten up that on-time delivery. Then we have our next one, which is accurate financials. And this is kind of something I alluded to a little bit earlier with your run rates, right? Your standard run rates, but also the time that is capturing it. And it used to be a trend there of going away from capturing labor. And that's fine, and it's okay. But sometimes you do need to capture labor just to maybe give you that reassurance that your standards are actually accurate. Because if your standards are not accurate, obviously, you could potentially be leaving money on the table because of what you're actually, charging, or what the cost is actually for something that you're manufacturing and what you're ultimately charging your customer for that. Then we have demand and forecast, right? You think about your planning engine. I already talked about this a little bit. Can be greatly improved again by understanding what progress has been made on the floor, what items have been consumed, what items have been produced. Think about running your MRP or your planning tool that, whether it runs once a day or multiple times throughout the day, the more accurate information and more timely information that you have, that demand and that forecast will be that much more accurate as well. And then obviously improving customer service. This is kind of one of those, I would say, kind of indirect benefits, right? Thinking about your on-time delivery and the quality of goods and all of the other things I already mentioned, your customer service numbers or metrics can obviously be greatly improved for the parts that you deliver, but also just traceability. If you have an issue with a part, you can easily drive in through the MES data that was actually produced that says, here's the lot number of the components that went into it, or the serial numbers of the components that went into it. You have all that information at the tips of your fingers there. So as you can see here, there's a lot of different advantages for having an MES system that will greatly improve your ERP system, and it's really a necessity, and they work hand in hand together. Again, totally two different systems for two different purposes, but they actually need to work together to improve each other. Just like the ERP system and it needs up-to-date and accurate information, the MES system does as well. So if you're generating orders, on the fly throughout the day, MES needs to know about that as well. With that, I'm going to give you guys a chance to enter any questions at this time, and I'll actually look to see if there are any questions out there, as well as also I will release my last poll question, which is how confident are you in the costs associated with your manufactured end items? And maybe I didn't use a percentage for this one. I just wanted to say, how confident are you? Meaning that are you getting the money for the money that you're spending? Meaning, overhead time, machine time, labor time, parts time, all that stuff, all included. And with that, I will look to see if there's any questions. Currently, there are no questions in my poll, which is fine. I'm sorry, no questions out there. So I will end this poll, but also please join us for our next session, which is improving MRP and scheduling through paperless MES, where we'll take a little deeper dive into some of the topics I talked about today to look at actually, how can your planning and scheduling be directly affected by the information that's coming from your shop floor MES system. Thank you, everyone, again for joining us, and we will see you in July. Have a great day.